Hey everyone, welcome back to the Poplar Report. I am going to continue on a topic I started yesterday. I was talking about the financial markets being crashed by the globalists, by the people that are opposing Donald Trump and really opposing the American people. We're not going to be talking about that anymore. We're going to be talking about industrial sabotage. We're going to be talking about how they're trying to collapse the whole system, everything from food to medicine to everything. And when we talk about real tangible goods, they're trying the exact same thing that the Federal Reserve is trying to do to the financial markets. This is one of the reasons why we talk so much about what's going on at the stores, what's happening supply chain wise, what's happening with the beef industry, what's happening with the egg industry, what's happening even in the medical big pharma industry out there. We need to talk about these things because this is all part of the plan. If you haven't seen it, they have literally spelled it all out for us. They've told us what they're trying to do. They've told us what they're going to do, and they're doing it. We need to talk about, friends. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and we cover things on this channel that no mainstream media covers at all. They may catch a little bit here, a little bit there, but they will never connect them for you. They will never show you how what they're doing over here is exactly what they're doing over there, and how they're trying to bring us to our knees because they need a subservient people that they don't have to pay much at all, where we're struggling to get by and they are keeping us under the boot. We've talked a good bit on this channel, but we're going to connect some of these things, okay? Beef industry. They are having a war on meat. It's not just the war on beef. It's not just the war on chicken and eggs and dairy. They want to take animal protein off the menu. They've told us this for years. They want us eating the bugs. They want us eating the Beyond Beef, the fake meat, the vegetarian soy slop. And that's usually what it is. It's just this textured soy protein. If you ever saw about or read about Soylent Green, that's exactly what they're trying to do to us. They wouldn't have any problem us eating each other, but they would have every problem in the world us eating any kind of meat whatsoever. And there's reasons for that. People who eat red meat, people who are eating a lot of animal protein are just harder to control. Farmers are hard to control. They need to concentrate food production into factories so that they can then make sure that all the workers are living next door to the factory in a giant high-rise apartment building, a building that is controllable. They can control New York City. They cannot control Iowa. They can't control Idaho. They can't control any of these states that are open and people spread out, people fending for themselves and watching out for their neighbors. You can't control areas like that. You can control them when everyone's concentrated. They don't like farmers. If you haven't picked up on that yet, they don't like farmers. They don't like the independent spirit. They do not like self-reliance, period. They don't like the fact that farmers can trade things with each other and keep it off the books. They don't like transactions that don't involve banks and credit cards, things that can be tracked by the IRS. They hate everything about gold backs, cash, precious metals. They don't like any of that stuff, or just trade or barter system. Beef is under attack. We've talked about this. One, we got the bird flu happening with beef. It's not doing anything to the cattle, but apparently all the cattle are testing positive, or a large number of them are. Something like 25 to 30% of the cattle in California had tested positive. When we start talking about dairy farms, a large portion of the dairy cattle are testing positive for bird flu. What does this mean? Well, it doesn't really mean anything yet, but a few people apparently have caught bird flu from the cows. Nothing really super serious from that, I don't think, at this point. It's not passed in through the milk. It's not passed in through the meat. So they're not really doing too much about it. But they're trying to restrict trade. We have the screwworm down in Mexico, so they shut down the border for about 30 days. People can just kind of wander across the border without any paperwork, but not cattle. Can't have cattle or beef crossing the border, but anyone on two legs can just wander across up until we just got a new president, right? Then we're talking about just the feed costs, all the costs involved in that. And this is really the meat packing plants. The meat packing plants have squeezed the ranchers, the farmers, so hard that nobody can make a living doing it. They're not paying fair wages to the cattlemen or the ranchers. And the ranchers have had enough. They've already started banding together down in Texas to refuse selling any cattle to the slaughterhouses. They're not going to do it anymore. We'll see how much of an impact that is, how many people actually hold to that. But between that, the screwworm, and other issues out there, we may be seeing beef prices spiking just in the next few weeks. Now, it's only going to get worse from here. The fact that in the 1960s we had a larger cattle beef herd than we do today, even though we have over twice the population in the United States than we did back then. I mean, do the math on that one, and you can tell that our per capita cattle herd is half the size than it was in the 1960s. That's pretty shocking when you think about it. All right, companies like McDonald's, burger houses, and burger restaurants and everything like that, they are trying to lock in supplies as best they can, but nobody wants to sell it to them. Nobody wants to sell future beef to them because they know that this is going to get really squirrely really fast, and we keep warning you, stock up on beef now. In the same vein, dairy. We're seeing impacts across the board in dairy. Who hasn't been to a store recently and seen dairy gone from the shelves? We've all seen that recently, right? It's not every day. It's not completely wiped out. It's just, why is it so low? Why can't they keep cottage cheese on the shelf? Why can't they keep sour cream on the shelf? A while back ago, it was cream cheese. They couldn't keep cream cheese on the shelf. All right, so we've talked about that. And then the big one that everyone's looking at right now is the egg shortage, the war on chickens. It's just everything about our daily, normal lives. I want to live a comfortable life and be left alone by the government is exactly what they are attacking, is exactly everything they're going after. They're trying to destroy our way of life. They want to alter our lives to the point that we will be forced to comply, whether for our comfort or whether by getting enough people to panic and move to what they want us to do. We're going to be seeing issues with chicken more and more. So you might want to start looking at getting stocked up on chicken. That's a hard one to get stocked up on as well. Canned chicken has a lot of water nowadays and not much chicken in it. We just had this discussion of whether foil packs of chicken actually have more chicken in them than the canned chicken, because the canned chicken has so much water. But not only that, we're talking about industrialization. And yes, big food industry is being impacted by this, but also the U.S. power grid. We've talked about how the sabotage of the U.S. power grid is intentional. They haven't been updating it. They're trying to turn the U.S. power grid on the continent basically into what they've done in Puerto Rico. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go Google, power reliability Puerto Rico, okay? And you're going to get an education on how horribly backward the Puerto Rican power grid is and how unable it is to supply dependable power. It is like a third world country, and yet it's a U.S. territory. It's part of the United States, and yet it can't keep the lights on. The U.S. power grid is not structured and not capable of handling all these electric vehicles. It's not capable of all these new people in the country. And it's definitely not prepared for all this cold weather that's being caused by all this increase in temperature, global temperature, that we're being told is happening. All right, U.S. power grid, but then also big pharma. We are being poisoned because a sick person is worth so much more to the healthcare industry. And quite frankly, it's expensive and hard to develop things that are perfectly safe. People are complex. And when you start taking hundreds of thousands of people and millions of people, the diversity amongst those people is wide. And how one medicine affects this person over here does not necessarily mean it affects people over there like that. And so they have a hard time developing stuff that works for everybody and doesn't have significant, horrific side effects for at least some of the people. And they just kind of settled into, it's just easier and cheaper to develop stuff that's kind of works for most people, and for the people that it harms, which may be more than the people it helps, we can just pay off those lawsuits. We can just settle those lawsuits, make them go away, and we can just keep pretending that everything is fine and let it continue to harm more people. That's just like the MO of it. And when you start talking about big pharma, you can't get away from talking about food poison, big food, and how they're pumping all these things into the cattle. They're pumping all sorts of things into all of the food that we eat. Yeah, sure, it may extend the shelf life of that product, but is it healthy for people? Well, that doesn't really matter, because it makes the product last longer on the shelf and it looks more appealing. It doesn't matter if that harms people. They are prioritizing profits over people. They don't ask themselves whether it's okay or right to do what they're doing. And if you're cynical enough, which sometimes I am, you might ask yourself if they're doing this intentionally because they think there's too many people on the planet. There are a good, powerful number of people who have said that very clearly, that they think there are too many people on this planet and we need to get rid of some of them. They want to decline our birth rates, and they're doing that by poisoning our food. They're poisoning our food and changing the who we are fundamentally, whether that's through pokes or whether that's through what they put in our food, whether it's all the hormones that they're pumping into us through our food system. The food, when I was walking through Spain on the Camino de Santiago for my 35-day pilgrimage, the food there was another level. It was just something else. I can't say that I really like Spanish food all that much, but I'll say this, the ingredients that they used, it was hard to go wrong. Their meat was so pure, and you knew that it came from a farm just down the road. You saw the vegetables, and you're like, you knew that those vegetables didn't come from very far away. They were fresh. They didn't have chemicals all sprayed all over them. And you just go through it, and the food that they cook for you is just raw ingredients, cooked or sometimes not cooked, and presented to you. As opposed to the United States is like, you can't go into a restaurant without them opening up a can of something, ripping open packages of frozen stuff and just heating that up and passing it off as their food. Whereas you go to the restaurants in Europe and they cook everything from scratch. They use spices, they use all their things. They don't use all these chemicals that they're dumping in there and preservatives. The food system in Europe is totally different than what we have going on in the United States. And is it any wonder where Europeans look like this and Americans look like that? Okay, it's night and day. Our food system is about making us sick so that we can be good medical patients. We pay more for health care in the United States per capita than any other country in the world, and we get way less results. We're less healthy, yet we spend more on health care. If that makes sense to you, well then cool, you can move to the UK or you can move to Canada because they got you covered, all right? In the United States, it makes no sense whatsoever. Over here in India, you can get procedures done for a tenth of the cost, and they're done by American-trained doctors who have gotten their licenses in the United States, who did their residencies in the United States, and now they practice in India for tourists, for Americans coming to India. And they do it for 1/10 the cost. It's absolutely crazy. If you need dental work done, if you need elective procedures, or if something that you need to get done, that you can get on a plane and fly halfway around the world, go to the Philippines, go to Thailand, go to India. You can find amazing hospitals that treat you really, really well. You'll actually be quite comfortable. You'll actually feel like you're on vacation, and yet you're getting a medical procedure as well. Unlike anything in the United States. Big food with their poison, big medical insurance with their health care. The healthcare system is just destroyed by medical insurance conglomerates. And then, like I said, we've already talked about big banking, the financial markets. But finally, let's talk about the biggest industrialization, the sabotage of an industry of the United States, and that is war. We're being dragged kicking and screaming, or actually more likely, we're being dragged quietly and unassumingly into war. Most of the American people are just going into it and they have no idea what's happening. They don't even care. We're going to have some sort of incident that's going to happen that's going to be used as justification to drag the United States into war. The United States intelligence services, our foreign allies, they know if we have 2 or 3 years of peace, the Trump administration will deconstruct the U.S. Intelligence deep state. And that terrifies them. They either need to get rid of him or they need to get rid of the peace. And they've tried to get rid of him already. Now they will probably try to get rid of the peace. And that means a false flag or provoking something so that somebody does something to the United States or one of our close allies that drags us into a major war. Because in major wars, all these other issues get pushed to the side and everyone stops asking questions. And that needs to not happen. We need to not go into war blindly. Just because an event happened, it's amazing how these events happen. We get dragged into war and the investigations drag on years and years, and 10 years later we find out, oh, the Gulf of Tonkin was a total setup. Oh, the Lusitania was actually moving weapons. You look at one thing after the next and you just see that most American wars were some kind of false flag that the deep state used to drag us into it. The USS Maine, right, with the Spanish-American War. You go down through the list. I mean, even Fort Sumter was really a setup, if you really get down to it. Abraham Lincoln was suckering the Confederates into attacking Fort Sumter. And they did. They fell for it. But he provoked them into doing it. Kentucky was going to join the side of the Union or the Confederacy based on whoever's troops invade them first, we're going to join the other side. Well, Union troops went into Kentucky first, and yet they joined the Union. Why did that happen? Well, because the Union accused the Confederates of crossing into Kentucky, even though it's well documented, and they basically just blamed the Confederacy for it, and everyone just kind of went along with it. The deep state won once again with war. We need to make sure that doesn't happen, and yet we're being dragged into that right now. All right, friends. Well, thanks so much for watching. We're going to keep our eyes on these things and keep waking you up and helping you understand what's actually happening out there. If you approve of that, make sure you hit the thumbs up button down below this video. Make sure you hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe. And if you have been unsubscribed, please resubscribe. All right, friends, if you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here on the screen. That's the most recent video. If you tap on that, it'll go straight to it. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.